Hi, my name's Phil Szomszor, and this time I'm joined by Jo Dunkley, who is the Managing Director of Coterie. How are you doing, Jo?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Getting ready for Christmas.
Well, you've immediately aged this podcast now, so so it is our I've got to get it edited and out before now. You put me under pressure, but
Start again then, Phil. Should we
no,
start?
let's just keep going. Let's just leave the mistakes in. Let's just go. Let's just go for it. It gives me a deadline. So obviously, we've known each other for a while, and we worked together at different agencies, but on a project, and we've got on well with each other ever since. But for those who don't know you, perhaps you could just introduce Coterie and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So we are partner marketing experts. So we work predominantly in IT sector, but we've also done work in engineering and financial services. And just anyone really that has got the desire or appetite for a partnership. I think it's a really good time for partnerships at the moment. We're a small global team. We work with some really big blue chip organisations across the world.
Excellent. Well, we'll be talking about the partnership aspect of it in the second half of our conversation. But the idea of what we're getting together to talk about is craft of communication, the idea of finding your voice and delivering it with some impact. And one of the things that made me think of speaking to you, actually, Jo, was you did a piece on CRM magazine, and you were up for an award a little while ago, and you did this kind of piece that was about, I don't know, how you started off in your career and some of the sort of challenges that you faced along the way and how things were different and how they're the same, I guess, in a lot of respects. And one of the things that you spoke about in that article was literally finding your voice and how you felt about having a distinctive accent or a distinctive voice. And there was a bit that you hadn't told me before about using those old spider phones and when we used to do conference calls, not on video. And so perhaps you could just tell us a bit about that experience and how that was informative for you.
Yeah, I've always been really conscious of my accent. I grew up in Catford, so I've got a southeast London accent. So much so, when I first started working in BT, I often used to get mimicked. My accent used to get mimicked. And, I don't like listening to my accent. I don't think anyone particularly likes listening back to their voice.
No.
I think I sound like Shirley out of EastEnders. It's not a great sound. But I did used to get mimicked quite a lot. People would pick up the last piece of a sentence that I would say, or maybe little regional quips that I might come out with, and it used to make me feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it was in the days, it was in my BT days, very grey suit, very few females, so it was quite undermining from a confidence point of view. But then I started doing quite a lot of work with BT conferencing. So we did quite a lot of calls in those days, so I am giving my age away, with the sort of spider phones on the desk.
Yeah.
And I'd got married and we all got on a call, and obviously people didn't know, my maiden name was Rumney. So we were like chatting away, and then someone went, is that Jo Rumney in the background there? And I'd got married and I was using my married name, so they didn't know. And I said, yeah, and they were like, oh, how are you? And, because I've got a big network of, people. I'm quite, I suppose, friendly. And we just sort of changed the body of the meeting completely. We went from being quite sort of like uptight to sort of really light and airy. And I thought, I can use this to my advantage. My accent is distinguishable enough to know on an audio call that it is me, and I can use that to my advantage. And I think that I can actually remember that meeting really, really clearly, and it was a big turning point for me because I'd had elocution lessons, which obviously didn't work. I fretted about it. I always felt really stupid and inadequate. Which was like bonkers because there were people from Scotland and all over the world that were coming into like BT Centre and working. So it sort of led me to like really think through what my problem was with it. And now I'm obviously much more comfortable.
Do you think it's still prevalent today? I mean, hearing that people would mimic you and finish your sentences off and stuff like that kind of makes me wince, really. I mean, but do you think people would still do that now, or is it?
Totally, they still do. They still do.
Really?
Absolutely still do. And I have to take a deep breath on it, because you could get, but I also, it's about me being authentic, Phil.
Yeah.
So I have a real problem with trust because of personal reasons. I have to be trusted and be a trustworthy person. So
Yeah.
being authentic is really important to me. I think when I'm trying not to be authentic, it really plays with my mental health.
Right.
So I do now. I'm much more comfortable being myself, because it's sort of self-preservation, really, and that can sometimes come across. Actually, I was called the other day spiky.
Right. As
But
in, you're a spiky person.
spiky person,
Right.
but actually it's probably more because that comes out when I'm not quite comfortable with something. So I'm almost voicing the fact that I'm asking a lot of questions, or I'm sort of voicing that I'm not quite happy with it. So I'm not falling into the norm. So people can take that as me being spiky, but that's me being authentic, because it's me trying to protect myself in not getting into anything that I'm uncomfortable with. So sometimes people can think that I'm direct, but actually I do think that people do think I'm a straight talker, and that does attract trust. And in my job, I do need to be trustworthy, and have people around me that I trust as well. So for me, it's been a big advantage, my accent, and being able to be myself and not be so worried about it. But it definitely still does get brought up, mostly little quips, and I'm sure it's people trying to be friendly, maybe.
And I mean, the thing around accent, and I think a lot. I mean, I came through a PR background, and in one job, I moved to London, and I was working at a corporate agency, and most of the people there spoke with quite received pronunciation accents. A lot of people have been privately educated, and I haven't. I'm state school. I'm very proud of that. And they would sometimes, not so much with the accents, but try and trick you a little bit. So there was one conversation I remember with one of the directors in a lift, and it was about somebody who'd said something they shouldn't have done, and I think it was on a night out. And he said to me, "In vino veritas." And I'm like, "You what?" I mean, what do you, pardon? And he was testing me whether I knew Latin, and it means in wine there's truth or something like that. But I'd never heard that phrase before, and I didn't know what it was. But so there's these little kind of tests to see whether you're one of us or one of them. But
I'm sure that's got him far in life, Phil.
yeah, he was quite an unusual character. We may well come back to him. Many stories about him, but there you go. I mean, we have these things in the workplace that people put up these barriers to protect them. And you mentioned being authentic there, and I know you've also done coaching with people as well as running a business and a lot of the other stuff that you've been doing. What does authenticity mean to you? And if you were coaching somebody and they were encountering some of the challenges that you've had or different ones, what would you say to them to encourage them to be authentic?
I think obviously tone really matters. I've had to work really hard on my tone because I'm authentic and really straight talking. It probably can come across, maybe sometimes people might feel it as aggressive. So I've had to work really hard on my tone. So that would be something that I would say to someone to look at. But I think authenticity does help you stand out. And, we're in a really crowded market at the moment. You've got your own personal brand. So I think if you are different, I mean, I always encourage my son to be really different. Unfortunately, he's a bit quirky. So he probably does stand out quite naturally. But I do think in a working environment, whether it's just that you're female in a very male-dominated environment, or you have got a certain accent, or maybe you do a different hobby outside of work, don't feel that you have to fall into the cultural normal, whatever that is, in the organisation that you work. And I do think that authenticity can earn you trust with colleagues, with clients, with partners, with friends. And oftentimes people will come to me because I've got a problem, because they feel that they can trust me.
Yeah.
I also think that maybe they come to me, and that's the advice that I would give, because then you get to know people a little bit more, and then you get to the root of the problem. I mean, sometimes I think people come to me, it's almost they don't want to hear it, but they know they're going to get it.
Right.
But that's quite nice. That I'm a natural helper, so I like to help people, and that really fills me up that someone would have the courage to do that. And so I think that being your authentic self is about helping you stand out in a really crowded market. I think it's about earning respect, earning trust, and actually for your mental health as well. I think trying to be something that you're not is just going to cause you a lot more internal stress. When
Yeah.
you're being really proud of who you are, it's just going to relieve any internal pressure that you've got.
Yeah. I can relate to that last one. And if you feel like you're performing an act, it's just mentally exhausting, isn't it?
It's totally exhausting. And I did try it for a long. I mean, when I first joined BT, I'd come from Arcadia, so it was a fashion brand, very, very different. And I remember going in and just this sea of like grey suited men walking around on mobile phones, which I found really bizarre, because it just wasn't, it just wasn't like that at all. And just being really frightened to say boo to the ghost. And then this whole sort of epiphany of, who am I? What do I want to be? How can I cut through this really sort of samey environment and get rid of this stress?
Yeah.
So I think that it really helped me cope with stress, basically.
Yeah.
So anyone coming up through the ranks, I would say, don't look at everyone else and think, how can I be more like them? Look and think, how can I be more like me?
Yeah.
And
And is
dial it
there a thing around, can other people help with that? I mean, presumably there's a thing of, you're saying, be comfortable in your own skin, be proud of who you are. But at the same time, I think we probably all sometimes also need help how to communicate in the right way at the right time, choosing your moment to give the feedback, delivering it in a particular way. What kind of advice would you give to somebody that says, well, I'm being my authentic self, but it's still not working? How would you get around that?
I think clarity is obviously kindness, is the way I look at it. And I think breaking things down and just being really clear with what you would like, or giving feedback. So for any manager giving feedback, they might want to skirt around the subject, but I think actually it's kinder to be clearer with someone and giving them feedback. Or if you're an employee and you're not quite happy with the way your career's going, or maybe you're not getting the results you want, voice your opinion in a really, really clear way. Break it down without getting aggressive about it. So I think the tone, again, is really important when you're doing something like that. Yeah, I mean, they would be the two tips that I would give. I think it definitely clarity, and I think the more that you can be clear with someone, the more you get back from them, really, because they know where they stand. I mean, I'd like to feel that my team all know where they stand with me.
Yeah.
Which is probably firm but fair.
And thinking about the partner marketing side of things, and the segue to how we can sort of bring that into it. One of the things that I see in my world is helping people with LinkedIn, and a lot of it, and I think increasingly the way LinkedIn's going, it's about how you can empower or get power from your network. So you're only as strong as the people you know and the people that are in your group, if you like. And it's not just about broadcasting; it's about having conversations. And people seem to have a real problem with that. But when thinking about partner marketing, that's like putting that on steroids, really, isn't it? Because you're not just thinking about having relationships and conversations with people. It's actually about doing something more, a genuine partnership.
Yeah.
and how that may help you get more impact from your communications as well. So tell us a bit about how you see the value of partner marketing evolving, not just for organizations like yours or organizations that have partnerships set up, but just generally, like people in
Yeah.
everyday life or in business.
Yeah, I mean, I think the overarching word here is trust. When you're thinking about going into a partnership, it's got to be something where your values really align. And people get into partnerships for different reasons. It could be that you want to get into a new customer segment, it could be a new region, it could be a new geography, it might be to attract new buyers, it could be a new vertical or a new industry. I mean, I was standing on the tube station yesterday and I saw an advert for Meta and Ray-Bans, and I just thought, oh God, that is a really sort of sexy partnership and a really clever partnership as well. They obviously want to get into different markets, both of them, so they've teamed together. But I think it's deeper than just putting a logo on something. It is about coming together with a common purpose. So it's
Yeah.
got to work for both organisations coming together to create a proposition which is going to be really valuable to an end customer, something fresh and new. And I think there's not a better time for partnerships at the moment because the market is so samey. So a partnership can really zhuzh up the market and help you get into new revenue streams, basically. So I think the biggest thing is to start with the problem. Not the partner.
Right. Okay.
And then maybe ask what you couldn't do well on your own.
Okay. So don't start with, I'm Meta and I would like to kind of I'd like to work with Ray-Ban. How can we make that happen? You'd be saying, what's the issue that we're solving here about how we sort of make VR work or the direction they
or
take
make
that.
VR fashionable.
Okay.
How can I make it more accessible? So that would be the problem that you're trying to solve, and then think about maybe possible partners that would align with your values as a brand, because it would be much easier to do that than, because people see through it. It's all about being authentic, Phil. It's the same thing, really. People see through it. If it's very one-sided, it won't work. It has to be an equal coming together.
Yeah.
It's a bit like a marriage.
Yeah. And more than just an like putting a logo on something, more than just an advertising campaign. And
yeah, totally. It needs to be sort of like a long-term, really thinking through the whole 4 Ps of marketing. It's not just a case of just putting a logo on something and then saying we're in a partnership and being short-term. It needs to be, really looking at the outcomes that you want to achieve together, pulling together that value message, and trusting each other and working together. So I think it is a relationship, isn't it?
And are there some things that people can be looking out for when they're thinking about, either red flags or positive cues to, like, this looks like it's going to be a good partnership opportunity for us? How do you know if you're on the right lines or the wrong lines?
I think a wrong line would be where it does feel very one-sided and you've got one side that's really pushing or making you feel something that's unnatural. It's going back to the authenticity conversation. Be your real self as a partner. If something with the other partner is not working, then you've got to trust that instinct that it's not. I think when it's good, you've got 2 partners that are going after the same market and they're feeling good about it and they're feeling good about working together and they want to get to know each other and having those relationships. It's always good to have a senior stakeholder that is helping to build the foundations of that right the way through the organisation. So not just they've had lunch and discussed an idea. This is where it can go wrong. They've had lunch and discussed an idea and thrown it down the line and then just expected the team to pick it up. They won't understand why. So that senior stakeholder needs to almost nurture that concept right the way through the organisation and sponsor it.
Yeah.
And that's where it can really, really work. And right the way through to the sales team so that they understand the value of the partnership as well, so that they can explain that to their end clients when they go out. I think, you might find that marketeers will get together and do a really groovy campaign, but the sales teams don't quite understand the value, or maybe their pay is not compensated in that way. So it's really just not going to go anywhere. It's almost like a waste of marketing budget because the sales engine is not on the same page.
Right.
So that's another big gotcha that I see happen quite a lot. Yeah.
So getting the whole, So essentially, to summarise it, it's thinking about it strategically, isn't it? It's not just doing, I think you've said it already, it's not just doing a bolt on. It's like, well, how do we think about this end to end? How do we think about the problem that we're trying to solve? And also make sure that we've got executive sponsorship, because otherwise it's just going to fall flat because one of the higher ups hasn't said that it's something that's worth pursuing.
Yeah, and I think that I know in IT that the partnerships can be quite deep. We do quite a lot of proposition work to make sure that those values are moulded together. I'm not quite sure that the same thing happens in the B2C market. You do find a lot of, just putting logos on things, and I'm not sure how deep that partnership really is. And I often wonder whether if they did do that due diligence, whether it would make the partnership stronger, and where could it go next, because things evolve, don't they? So I'm quite interested in exploring that in a bit more, actually, a bit more detail.
Okay, well, a good one to finish our main questions off, but I do have some quick fire questions. This is something that we've been doing with each of them, and there may be some surprises in here, but let's just start with a fairly sort of straightforward one. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received in business?
Be seen, be brief, be gone.
Okay. I like that. A brief answer to a question that some people would have waffled on about for ages. I love that. Okay. I shall put that in the show notes. So, and what's the marketing or business lingo that you'd like to banish from every piece of business communications and meetings?
God, there's so many.
You can have a few here if you like, because there are so many, aren't there?
Acronyms, it drives me mad. I think I must have been the most annoying person when I sort of joined BT, who used to ask what every acronym meant, and you would be surprised how many people didn't know. So I would
really?
Yeah, totally. I would banish any acronym.
Yeah.
Use the word.
The acronym ones that get me are when companies or projects decide to create an acronym for the company name. And it gets really tenuous just to make a word work.
It's just number one. If you've seen that comedy sketch.
Yeah. Okay, so how would you describe 2025 in a word?
Challenging.
Okay. You've got to elaborate a little bit on that. Just the full year has been a challenge, or?
There's been a lot of movement, and I think there's been a lot of mergers and acquisitions. There's been a lot of people moving jobs, a lot of redundancy. So it's been quite unsettling, I would say, for a lot of people, not just us as an agency, but a lot of people out, working. So I would definitely say it's been a challenge on that front. And I do think it's settling down, but I think it's been quite unnerving for a lot of organisations this year.
And an add-on question to that would be, in a word, how would you describe how you feel about 2026?
Optimistic, actually. I'm always optimistic anyway, Phil. So, but I do really feel optimistic and excited about going into 2026, because I can see things settling down. There's a lot of new, fresh. There's been a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and a lot of fresh propositions coming out. AI is changing the face of everything so quickly. And I do think that brings opportunity as well. So I'm really optimistic about 2026.
Lovely. And I know you're quite into your health and fitness stuff, and particularly recently in the last few years, we've spoken about that in the past. I confess that I'm a bit of an in and out person. I haven't really been doing much exercise the last couple of weeks because I've just been, I think, too busy. You'll tell me that I've not been too busy. But what advice would you give to me to sort of get me on the wagon and stay there?
I think move is move. I think a lot of people feel that exercise has got to be sort of like caning it in the gym, and it really doesn't have to be like that. I think as you get older, it's just about moving, and we all sit in quite sedentary jobs, and I think just a space in your front room where you just go and have a stretch out in the morning is better than just not doing anything at all. And the other thing is booze.
Cutting it down.
Cutting it down, yeah.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's been movement and booze banishment has been two things that has really helped me
Yeah.
with my mental health and just get through a really difficult year this year, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And actually, when you start doing it, you realise that it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, and it can be a bit of a what you perceive to be a safety net. I think, we were very popular with Majestic during lockdown. Let's just put it that way.
I think everyone was, Phil. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not until you start cutting it out that you realise that the clarity that you suddenly get in your life.
Yeah.
And I'm not being I still have the odd drink. I mean, I did do at least 8 months with no drink whatsoever this year, and it slowly crept in the odd drink here and there. But I think once you do cut down, it's much easier to control.
Yeah.
Whereas I would be a bit of a binge boozer.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. I notice a lot of people in my age bracket now into 50s. It's becoming more popular. Right. So last one. If you weren't running a partner marketing business, what would you be doing instead?
I think I'd be a dentist.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that one.
I've got a fascination with teeth.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think because in my teenage years, I went through sort of like years of braces, like those awful ones with the headgear and like,
right.
really painful.
Yeah.
That was a face full of acne as well. So you can imagine I was a salt when I was younger. But yeah, so I always sat there and thought I'm going to be a dentist when I'm older, and I was never that clever to be a dentist. So but if I had my time again, I think either a dentist or something medical. I'm always Laura and my husband that he comes home and he's really giving.
Yes.
And I don't feel that I've got that in my. Well, I like to help people, so I suppose I try and do it that way. But
I feel like I've got to give you a chance to plug what you've been doing on the boxing front with the NHS as well, because that's been something you've done recently and has been like supremely successful from a PR and marketing point of view, not just what you're actually doing as well. Tell us a little bit about the off the ropes side as well.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try and say it without choking up because I can feel myself welling up.
Oh, really? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, because it is something that I enjoy getting involved with because it does help so many people. So it's a mental health charity, but it uses non-contact boxing. So often people in hospital with their mental health, or just going to the GP with your mental health. It's the non-contact boxing is a form of stress buster. So my husband is an occupational therapist with the NHS, and he was going into sort of like high security wards and finding that actually taking his pads in, he's an ex-pro fighter, and finding that it was really helping to relieve stress. Right. So he sort of come up with the idea to set the charity up in 2019. And it's sort of evolved from that, really. And so many people, there's one girl who's she's been sectioned 5 times, and since she's been in the charity, she's not gone back into hospital. So it sort of stops that revolving door of coming into the community, going back into mental health. So it's stopping that revolving door. And we've built the charity up, and we've just been awarded a 10-year lease with the NHS Oxley's Trust. And we've got a boxing gym, like 2 rings, proper boxing gym in a hospital setting. So it's the first in the UK, which has shown the belief that they've got in us.
Yeah.
But because it's a first, it's sort of gone national, and Warren's is starring on the One show in January, so it's all been a bit of a.
There's so much coverage for it. It's been
I
all over the
know,
place,
really,
BBC,
really, really
ITV.
proud. And a lot of the service users that come into the charity, they've been actively involved in all the PR as well, and really enjoyed it. And their commitment to it has been amazing. The way they've supported Warren, my husband, and we've got a real ambition to keep people out of hospital, but also have that vocational link as well, and maybe get them into work, because a lot of people do want to get back into work. They might be on PIP, and they actually do want to, start having a career. So that would be the next thing that we're starting to look at as part of the charity, getting people into work. So it's that social support network, getting fit, but also a pathway to help. And it's more than just boxing. We do all sorts of fun things as well. Take people on holiday, and paddle boarding, and arts and crafts, and yoga, and they're all really good mates. They were all over Bluewater yesterday shopping, so they form lots of friendships. So a lot of mental health is about, social inclusion is really important.
Yeah. Well, I'll put in the notes at the bottom of the YouTube clip, and if we get it on audio as well, do go and everybody watching this.
Thanks,
do go and have a look. I think
I can't give it justice, to be quite honest with you. But
it's incredible having watched it from the outside and just seeing what you've done, and it's very moving watching it and reading about it as well. Well, we'll finish up in a second, but my final thing, which I've been asking people, is if you have a motto in life, what would it be, or what is it?
Oh wow. Be true to yourself.
I like that. Very good. Well, I think that's a good place to stop, Jo. Thanks for joining us and talking about all of those things. We covered a lot of ground there in our short time together. And
it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Phil, for inviting me on.
No worries. All that remains to say is, let's play some music.